Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Satyashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 in New York. And today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 8, text number 34. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Gunadhikan mudang lipsed anukroshang gunadhamat. Maitring samanad anvichen natapayar abhibhuyate. This is Narada Muni speaking to Dhruva Maharaj. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. Purport. Generally, when we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. These are the causes of all material tribulations. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate toward him just to raise him to the proper standard. And when one meets an equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion for the people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. These important functions will make one happy within this material world. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this instruction of Narada Muni comes off his last instruction, which, just to recap, was one should try to keep himself satisfied in any condition of life, whether distress or happiness, which is offered by the supreme will. A person who endures in this way is able to cross over the darkness of nescience very easily. So at this point, Narada is trying to placate Dhruva Maharaj, testing him, seeing if he can be dissuaded from his course of action, and giving him some very general instructions of how to be happy. I can see you're unhappy. Here's some advice how to be happy. And in today's verse, he gives him some information that Prabhupada immediately contrasts with what we see in the material world. We see someone more qualified than ourselves. Are we happy? No. We become envious of that person. We see someone less qualified than ourselves. Are we compassionate toward them? No. We put them down, and as Prabhupada says later in the purport, we act in an oppressive way. And when we see someone equal to us, do we become their friend? Well, the tendency is to become very proud of our activities, go on and on and on about what I did, my qualifications, this, that, and the other. And interestingly, the whole, he says, let me go down to that verse where he says that in this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So this guidebook for social dealings, he's saying, is an antidote for the threefold miseries. And towards the end of the purport, he says, these important functions will make one happy within this material world. So seemingly, just if you have your social etiquette, your social consciousness properly in order, in the order of the Vaishnava relations, then so much of your misery will just go away. But of course, we're not taught this generally in school or elsewhere. And we develop bad habits due to bad association, and thus we suffer. What was the other thing I was thinking here? I'll pause here. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you. Happy to see you again. Hare Krishna.
Happy to be back. Thank you. I don't think I have anything to add here. You covered it.
Thank you. Let's see here. All right. Any other comments or questions here before we move on? Let's see. All right. Panchatattva Prabhu, would you like to take our next verse? But wait, there's something here. Saraswati Mata says, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 1, 218 to 220, the purports, a preacher's duty is to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, make friendships with Vaishnavas, show mercy to the innocent, and reject or neglect those who are envious or jealous. There are many jealous people in the dress of Vaishnavas in this Krishna consciousness movement, and they should be completely neglected. There is no need to serve a jealous person who is in the dress of a Vaishnava. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are many mundane persons in the dress of Vaishnavas. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described them as disciples of Kali. He says, Kali Chela. Thank you for that.
Um,
I'm sorry, you're muted,
yes,
Maharaj.
yes. Prabhupada often refers to that verse from Bhagavatam. Ishre taradhineshu balisheshu trishatsucha prema maitri kripo peksha yakaroti samadhyama. This is the standard behavior of the Madhyamadikari, that he has love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also for the devotees. He's a friend to the devotees, and he's merciful to the ignorant and disregards the envious. It's I can't help it. There's a figure of speech there. I don't remember what it's called in English, but it's you line up all your objects first, and then you later line up all the things that you're going to say about them. So it's prema, maitri, kripopeksha. They're all lined up. And then in the beginning, Ishre Tarandineshu Balisheshu Adriratsucha. Maybe I'll find the name of the figure of speech, but it's it occurs in English also. Sorry to sort of hone in on that, but English editors, you know.
Thank you, Maharaj. While you're looking that up, Praveen Prabhu provides the verse you just quoted and the translation. The intermediate Vaishnava has to love God, make friends with the devotees, instruct the innocent, and reject jealous people. These are the four functions of the Vaishnava in the intermediate stage. And he asks, what is it called in Sanskrit poetry?
Beats me.
There you have it. We have text number 34. I think we can move on. Unless, Maharaj, you're still looking up something, we can wait for you, certainly.
Carry on.
All right. Panchatattva Prabhu, are you able to read our text 34?
35.
I'm sorry, 35, yeah.
Dhruva uvacha Sayam Samo Bhagavata Sukha Dukha Hatatmanam Darshita Kripaya Pungsam Durdarsho Smad Vidhaistuyaha. Dhruva Maharaj said, My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by the material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attainment of peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart. Purport. There are various classes of men. One class is called akamis, referring to those who have no material desire. Desire must exist, either material or spiritual. Material desire arises when one wants to satisfy one's personal senses. One who is ready to sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be said to have spiritual desire. Dhruva did not accept the instruction given by the great Saint Narada because he thought himself unfit for such instruction, which prohibited all material desires. It is not a fact, however, that those who have material desires are prohibited from worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the essential instruction from the life of Dhruva. He frankly admitted that his heart was full of material desires. He was very much affected by the cruel words of his stepmother, whereas those who are spiritually advanced do not care about anyone's condemnation or adoration. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that persons who are actually advanced in spiritual life do not care for the dual behavior of this material world. But Dhruva Maharaj frankly admitted that he was not beyond the affliction of material distress and happiness. He was confident that the instruction given by Narada was valuable, yet he could not accept it. The question raised here is whether or not a person afflicted by material desires is fit to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The answer is that everyone is fit to worship him. Even if one has many material desires to fulfill, he should take to Krishna consciousness and worship the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is so merciful that he fulfills everyone's desires. Through this narration, it will become very clear that no one is barred from worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if one has many material desires. Om Ajnanatamanda Sakana Anjana Sarakaya Chakshum Munitandya Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayadvaita Swami Iti Namine. So Dhruva Maharaj is here answering Narada Muni after hearing his instructions, and is saying frankly and sincerely that he cannot follow the instructions that he's given to give up his attempt to fulfill his material desires, essentially. Even though the thing is, we were talking about sincerity in the other class, last class on Monday. And of course, when we go to talk about sincerity, we want to talk about sincere devotees, and they have no other material desires, etc., etc. And that's certainly a type of sincerity among devotees. But sincerity actually means being truthful, being open, not being duplicitous. And Dhruva Maharaj is here being very frank. He's sincerely saying, I can't follow this. I'm determined to gain, he later explains, to gain a kingdom even greater than that of my fathers or Lord Brahma, and I will do whatever it takes. And he explains that his condition is that he's been very much wounded by the words of his stepmother, and he's determined to do something about it. So Prabhupada contrasts that mentality, which is definitely material, with those who he says are spiritually advanced and don't care about anyone's condemnation or adoration. That's an expression of the duality of the material world. We think of disturbance as only coming from those who condemn us or just, cause us pain and suffering. But disturbance also comes from being attached to being adored and appreciated and beloved and so forth on the material platform. Those are dualities of material life. And to get caught up in them it's to frankly suffer the consequences. Dhruva Maharaj was in this position. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that there are different types of personalities who come to him. And he says they're all great souls. The materially distressed, the inquisitive, persons who are seeking after wealth or so forth, and those who are genuinely in search of knowledge of the absolute. All of these four are accepted by him. Of course, we understand from the standards of pure devotional service that isn't what is the final position. That isn't what pleases Krishna the most. Pure devotion that's unalloyed with no material desires is pleasing to Krishna. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says here, one who is ready to sacrifice anything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be said to have spiritual desire. That's the definition of a pure devotee. He's ready to sacrifice anything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not that he's desireless, but now his desire is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it's encouraging to the general public who may be interested in the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam here. There's a strong encouragement at the end of this purport, where Srila Prabhupada says that this narration about the life, that the Dhruva Maharaj leaving home to attempt to accomplish fulfilling his desires, and then his subsequent purification of those desires, it's an encouragement to anyone who is approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead to worship him, because no one is barred. In this case, Dhruva Maharaj had the greatest material desire, to acquire a kingdom greater than anything ever seen before. So talk about material desires. And yet at the same time, Srila Prabhupada is saying here that no one, including someone with such great and lofty material desires, is barred from worshiping Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Maharaj, would you care to comment here?
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaunavani Prachayane Vishesha Shunjavani Pashtadeshtai. Not a lot to say. Kama Sarva Kamo Va Moksha Kama without a T. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Ijeta Purusham Param. That the persons who are full of desires, free from desires, or desiring moksha, if intelligent, should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I think everything else we heard from Panchatat Prabhu. Not everything else, there's always more, but I don't have more to add at this point.
Thank you, Maharaj. A couple things in the chat here. Praveen Prabhu wants to know, how is it indicated, quote, covered by ignorance?
Let's see. Ayam Shama Bhagavata Sukha Dukkha Tatmana Tarshta Kripaya Pumsa. It's indicated by Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Saraswati Mata says, Dhruva Maharaj is unpretentious. Maharaj, you once confirmed that in bhakti, you cannot fake it to make it. One thing that struck me here was the similarity between Dhruva Maharaj and Arjuna. Arjuna told Krishna, you've laid out this whole process of yoga, and I can't do it. So it seems that to really progress in a spiritual master-disciple relationship, both parties have to be frank, and there has to be a transparency. Then you can have an actual footing to make progress in your conversation. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu wants to know, what is the poetic tool in English poetry?
Well, I looked it up, and in fact, it doesn't. My reference didn't give me a name for that. Rather, it was found in a collection under a syndeton, which means basically leaving out commas. And the example is the courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword. The courtiers, normally it would be the courtier's eye, the soldiers, the soldier's sword, the scholar's tongue, but the courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, and sword. It possesses the courtier, of the soldier, of the scholar, eye, tongue, sword. Now there's the example. So it is a figure of speech found in English also, but so far it's nameless.
Thank you, Maharaj. Panchatattva Prabhu comments, it's easier to think of material distress as an affliction than it is material happiness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it is an affliction. It's the enemy of this complacency that develops from happiness, or attachment that develops from happiness. It's the enemy of the conditioned soul. So a person can properly be said to be afflicted by happiness. It's a kind of another symptom of disease.
Hare Krishna. Let's see. Any other comments or questions before we move on here? As you've said, Maharaj, Prabhupada said, covered by ignorance, I was just looking, and Dhruva Maharaj says, Hata Atmanam, and then later, Durdarsha. So Hata Atmanam could have led to that conclusion. I didn't see it. There's Srila Vishwanath doesn't have any commentary for this particular verse, but it's easy to see how Prabhupada could say that. Let's see. Yoganananda Mata, would you like to read our next verse, 36, I believe? If not available yet, we can come back to you. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, are you ready to read something? Text number 36, perhaps?
Prabhu, I was reading and I didn't realize my speaker was off.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't see you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was off, so I was going. Okay, here we go again. Atapi me vinitasya kachatram goram upeyusa sarucha durvacho banir na bina bine shriyate ridi. Translation. My dear Lord, I am very impotent for not accepting your instructions, but this is not my fault. It is due to my having been born in a Kshatriya family. My stepmother Surichi has pierced my heart with her harsh words. Therefore, your valuable instruction does not stand in my heart. Purport. It is said that the heart or mind is just like an earthen pot. Once broken, it cannot be repaired by any means. Dhruva Maharaj gave this example to Narada Muni. He said that his heart, having been pierced by the arrows of his stepmother's harsh words, felt so broken that nothing seemed valuable but his desire to counteract her insult. His stepmother had said that because he was born from the womb of Suniti, a neglected queen of Maharaj Uttanapad, Dhruva Maharaj was not fit to sit either on the throne or his father's lap. In other words, according to his stepmother, he could not be declared king. Dhruva Maharaj's determination, therefore, was to become king of a planet exalted even beyond that possessed by Lord Brahma, the greatest of all the demigods. Dhruva Maharaj indirectly informed the great sage Narada that there are four kinds of human spirit: the Brahminical spirit, the Kshatriya spirit, the Vaishya spirit, and the Sudra spirit. The spirit of one caste is not applicable to the members of another. The philosophical spirit enunciated by Narada Muni might have been suitable for a Brahmana spirit, but it was not suitable for a Kshatriya. Dhruva frankly admitted that he was lacking in Brahminical humility and was therefore unable to accept the philosophy of Narada Muni. The statements of Dhruva Maharaj indicate that unless a child is trained according to his tendency, there is no possibility of his developing his particular spirit. It was the duty of the spiritual master or teacher to observe the psychological movement of a particular boy and thus trained him in a particular occupational duty. Dhruva Maharaj, having already been trained in the Kshatriya spirit, will not accept the Brahminical philosophy. In America, we have practical experience of this incompatibility of the Brahminical and Kshatriya temperaments. The American boys who have simply been trained as Sudras are not at all fit to fight in a battle. Therefore, when they are called to join the military, they refuse because they do not have Kshatriya spirit. This is a cause of great dissatisfaction in society. That the boys do not have the Kshatriya spirit does not mean that they're trained in Brahminical qualities. They're trained as Sudras, and thus in frustration, they're becoming hippies. However, as soon as they enter the Krishna consciousness movement being started in America, they're trained to meet the Brahminical qualifications, even though they have fallen to the lowest conditions as Sudras. In other words, since the Krishna consciousness movement is open for everyone, people in general can attain the Brahminical qualifications. This is the greatest need at the present moment. For now, there are actually no Brahmanas or Kshatriyas, but only some Vaishyas, and for the most part, Sudras. The classification of society into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras is very scientific. In the human social body, the Brahmanas are considered the head, the Kshatriyas are the arms, the Vaishyas are the belly, and the Sudras are the legs. At the present moment, the body has legs and a belly, but there are no arms or head, and therefore society is topsy-turvy. It is necessary to re-establish the Brahminical qualifications in order to raise the fallen human society to the highest standard of spiritual consciousness. Jai. So, anyone have anything to say?
We were hoping that you might have something to say before.
It's all right. You can go ahead, Kendra Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Maharaj, would you care to comment here?
It's interesting to see Prabhupada's social comments here. During the time of the Vietnam War, there was a draft signing obligatory military service to young men, and some of our devotees came up for conscription. And Prabhupada, through our attorneys, I believe, sought exemption for the devotees, in particular Tom Allen. That was Tosan Krishna Prabhu. He was I think the first case. And Prabhupada sought exemption not on the grounds of conscientious objection, which would have been the standard go-to reason, but on the grounds that these boys were being trained as divinity students, and that therefore they were unsuitable for military service, that they were being trained in a different way, that they were essentially Brahminical students, and that the fighting was the business of the Kshatriyas. That was his submission, and it succeeded also. The exemption was granted. So, very important point here, that everyone has a particular tendency, and we have to see the tendency of our students, disciples, so that we can direct them properly in a way that will be consistent with their character. If you take a Shudra boy and ask him now, sit and study Bhagavatam, at least 4 hours a day, that won't work because they don't have the mentality for it. They don't have the mentality for it. If you give him some work that he can do or would like to do, then he'll be enlivened, and his Krishna consciousness will have a favorable foundation, favorable background. So in that way, we have to try to arrange things. Although the devotee is ready to surrender to any engagement, the best engagement is the engagement consistent with his natural tendency according to these 4 divisions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. There's something in the chat here from Saraswati Mata. She says, we have a saying in Gujarati, Man, Moti, Kach, mind, heart, pearls, and glass, once cracked, cannot be repaired to look perfect again. I'm thinking of Dronacharya, who felt insulted by King Drupad and asked his disciples to conquer the king's kingdom, which the Pandavas did. So as a Brahmana, he couldn't let go of the harsh words spoken to him either. Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. And Prabhin Krishna Prabhu says, quote, this is from the purport, he says, duty of spiritual master to observe and, quote, train him in a particular occupational duty. He wonders, is it still the duty of today's Gaudiya Vaishnava gurus? Prabhupada would say sometimes that don't come to the guru for material benefits.
It's not a question of material benefit. It's a question of engaging the disciple in a suitable way. And it's still relevant. And Prabhupada said in simple terms, they'll see, oh, this person is best in the deity service. This person is best for distributing books. This person can clean the temple. This person can work with the accounts. So otherwise, you just take anyone and say to anyone, you do this, you do this. And of course, sometimes we do that. Something needs to be done, and you take whoever's there. But generally, we look to see who's suitable for the project. You can, yes, and then that person feels happy. Yes, I'm working with the money, or I'm working with the protecting the assets of the temple. I'm working with the deity seva. The person working with the money might be exasperated if he's asked to do the deity seva. You stay and just do the deity seva. Or the book distributor, the person who's enthusiastic for going out and distributing books, he'll feel constrained if he has to stay home and serve in the temple. But someone else is less enthusiastic for the book distribution, but it feels totally happy serving the deity. So we have to see what is the natural tendency, and in that way try to engage people accordingly. That will be good for them.
Hare Krishna. I appreciate hearing that so much from you, Maharaj. I had a similar and maybe a parallel question to Praveen Krishna Prabhu. Perhaps when someone reads this purport and they'll say occupational duty, that can be taken in a couple of different ways. One is that, occupation, like you'd take a standard aptitude test in school to see what kind of job, you might be well suited to do. And on the other side, as you pointed out, occupational duty as applies to Krishna consciousness means something different. In other words, what is your occupational duty going to be for serving Krishna, not how are you going to make money necessarily. So it almost seems like if you've made that choice to surrender to Krishna, accept spiritual instruction, accept a spiritual master, then that occupational duty that the spiritual master can impart to you in terms of how you can be occupied in your service to Krishna makes sense. And at the same time, I think I've brought this up in class before, that because we have a situation where people are born Shudra or less, and oftentimes less, then people still want to have this sort of guidance, like, how am I going to live in this world? And so Praveen Krishna Prabhu was saying, don't come to the guru for material benefits. I've also heard this, that the guru is not your high school guidance counselor or your, whatever, plug in any material occupation there. And the guru is not that. The guru is one who can engage you in your service to Krishna. I don't know if that's something that you might want to discuss further or not.
I don't think I'd comment further, but good points.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Saraswati Mata has a question here. She says, not to appear impudent, but there have been times when a disciple couldn't fulfill the role, the ashram assigned role, assigned by the guru in our movement, and then committed suicide or left the movement. How to understand this?
Well, Prabhupada himself told how to understand it. Sometimes, of course, it's the disciple who is eager to accept sannyas, for example. But otherwise, Prabhupada explained that there was a need for sannyasis, so he had to create some, but there was some risk involved because the men were young and so on. So Prabhupada said, in a war or he indicated that this is the sort of situation when there's an emergency, then someone has to be appointed. So we can understand it that way.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Looking for other
Hare
comments
Krishna.
or questions. Oh, we have one. Oh, Saraswati Mata says, thank you, Maharaj. Yes. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, I think we have time for another verse if you'd like to read our text number 37.
Yes, Ekendra Das Prabhu. Thank you very much, you're most kind. Text 37, Padam 3, Bhuva not Krishtam, Jigisho Sadhu, Vartmame, Bruhi Asmat, Pitri Bir Brahman, Anyaira Piyana, Deshtitam. Translation: O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. Purport. When Dhruva Maharaj refused to accept the Brahminical instruction of Narada Muni, naturally the next question would be what sort of instruction he wanted. So, even before Narada Muni asked, Dhruva Maharaj expressed his heartfelt desire. His father, of course, was the emperor of the entire world, and his grandfather, Lord Brahma, was the creator of the universe. Dhruva Maharaj expressed his desire to possess a kingdom better than those of his father and grandfather. He frankly stated that he wanted a kingdom which had no competitor within the three worlds, namely the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The greatest personality within this universe is Lord Brahma, and Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position even greater than his. He wanted to take advantage of Narada Muni's presence because he knew very well that if Narada Muni, the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna, could bless him or show him the path, then certainly he would be able to occupy a more exalted position than any person within the three worlds. Thus, he wanted help from Narada Ji to achieve that position. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position greater than that of Brahma. This was practically an impossible proposition, but by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee can achieve even the impossible. One particular point mentioned here is that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to occupy an exalted position not by hook or by crook, but by honest means. This indicates that if Krishna offered him such a position, then he would accept it. That is the nature of a devotee. He may desire material gain, but he accepts it only if Krishna offers it. Dhruva Maharaj was sorry to refuse the instruction of Narada Muni. Therefore, he requested him to be merciful to him by showing a path by which he could fulfill his mind's desires.
Thank you, Prabhu. Some thoughts from your side?
Yes, a very quick one. The last sentence of the first paragraph, and I'm going to read it again. Quote, no, just a part of the sentence. Quote, by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee can achieve even the impossible. Close quote. And based on this quote, I have a question. The burning question is, how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That is my question.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question part.
Maharaj, sorry?
I didn't get the question part. The devotee wants to please the personality of Godhead, but what's the question?
The question is how to please the Supreme Personality
How
of
to
Godhead.
please. Yes, by pleasing the devotee, by carrying out the instructions of the devotee, by devotional service, finally. Bhaktyamam abhijanati.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Some other comments do you have, Maharaj, from your side?
Just see this boy, he certainly knows what he wants. He wants a kingdom, and he knows what kind of kingdom he wants, greater than even that of Brahma, is greater than his fathers, his grandfathers, his great-grandfathers. Someplace the Acharyas comment that it was a childish desire, a thoughtful adult would not think this way, but a child would think, I want, the moon. I want such a kingdom. But so he thought that way, but he wasn't just an ordinary child. He had such great determination that Krishna finally obliged his order. Prabhupada tells the story of the little bird that tried to empty out the ocean and got help from Garuda and obliged the ocean to return the little bird's eggs. So by the grace of Krishna, one can achieve, that a determined person can achieve all perfection of his desires. Hare Krishna.
All right, Krishna, thank you. Almost to the end of our time here. I think we have time for one more comment or question, then it's time for kirtan. Sati Mataji says, I seem to go to my guru with many personal details. I have heard others say that, oh, you are married now. You go to your guru less and your husband more. Or is it a case that as one matures in devotional service, one goes to their guru less with detailed questions? I have always felt it best to be able to share details with my guru, and at other times I write letters to him or Jayadvaita Swami, and I do not actually give him the letters when sometimes it's something I feel I don't need to go to him directly.
Well, there certainly one might ask about any question. Is this a question to ask my guru, or could I answer this question by asking my husband, or my temple president, or someone else in authority? Sometimes the tendency is to want to share everything with the guru, and one may not take into account that the guru has more to do than carry on correspondence with disciples who are approaching him with questions that they could get answered elsewhere, or without having to go all the way up. So that's maybe it has a sense of courtesy or thoughtfulness. One might think, why should I disturb my guru with these questions that I can get answered on my own, for which I can find help on my own. That is one thought. Yeah, and it may be that as one matures, one has fewer questions. Prabhupada said, I only ask my Guru Maharaj one question: how can I serve you? So these are some relevant thoughts, I hope.
She says, thank you, Maharaj. And we are almost at our ultimate time here, but Praveen Krishna Prabhu provides a verse and translation. Bhadyamano pi madbhakto vishayar ajitendriyaha prayaha pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayayar nabhibhuyate. My dear Uddhava, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses, he may be harassed by material desires, but because of his unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. And Vijay Krishna Prabhu, your hand is up. Does that mean you're ready to lead us in kirtan?
No, only if you insist, but it came to my mind because of the answer that Maharaj just gave to my question about how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead for us to achieve the impossible. It came to my mind the determination of Srila Prabhupada because of trying to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. He was so determined that Sumati Murarji even called him crazy. What are you going to do in the United States of America? Have you become crazy? But he was so determined that he did it, and now we are here because of him. He created in less than 10 years a worldwide spiritual movement which was unknown to the whole planet. Something impossible to achieve, but he did it in less than 10 years. So it just came to my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Now kirtan is the next non-crazy thing to do.
Who?
Please go ahead. You're right there. We're ready.
Okay. So you want me to do the closing kirtan?
I would like that. I think others would as well.
Okay, thank you. You're most kind. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Vidai Krishna Prabhu. Saraswati Mata wishes everyone, I hope everyone enjoyed the Gita Jayanti auspicious day. Thank you everyone for being here. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Ki Jai.
Jai.
Oh, sorry, you're muted, Maharaj, but we can see.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Panchatattva Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Monday.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna Kanti.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Yogananda. Yogananda. Hare Krishna. Right. Hare Krishna.